The day our final exams ended, I threw a wad of cash at Chloe Davis in front of the entire class. "I'm done playing around," I said. "We're over." She bent down, picking up the bills from the floor one by one, and whispered, "Hoarsely, okay." When summer ended, Chloe took a train to an Ivy League school on the East Coast while I flew to the Mayo Clinic to begin a long course of chemotherapy. Years later, I was back in a hospital bed in New York, bald from the treatments and busy scrolling through wigs, when the door to my room opened. It was Chloe wearing a white coat, and our eyes met when Chloe walked in. I was ass in the air, face down on the bed with the booming voice of a QVC host blasting from my phone. "Cyber Monday deals. Order now. You don't want to miss this." Mr. Miller, looking at wigs again. "Are we?" The noisy ward fell silent in an instant. A nurse pointed at me. "Dr. Davis, this is the new patient for the trial. He's already signed the consent forms." The moment Chloe's gaze fell on me, my head tilted like I'd been unplugged, and my brain turned to static. 10 years. The one person I thought I'd never see again for the rest of my life had suddenly become my lead physician, and she'd walked in on me while I was doing exercises to relieve Gus. I wanted to die. I scrambled to my feet, straightened my crooked face mask, and stood there petrified. Even without looking at her, I could feel her eyes on me. They were cold, devoid of any warmth, a world away from the gentle, exasperated look she used to give me when I messed up a math problem. "Mr. Miller, this is the head of our team, Dr. Chloe Davis. She'll be responsible for your entire treatment plan." Avoided her gaze and gave a quick nod, not saying a word, and in turn, standing beside her, held up a chart and began reciting my history. Ethan Miller, male, 28. 10 years ago, a physical exam revealed swollen cervical lymph nodes. Initial diagnosis was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and further pathology reports showed. "That's enough." Chloe cut in. "What? Dr. Davis, do you know this patient?" My heart leaped into my throat. I pretended to be busy with my phone, feeling her eyes fixed on me. After a moment, she spoke, her voice flat. "No. The case is just unusual. So, I reviewed it ahead of time." My phone screen had switched to an Amazon checkout page. The timer for the one-click purchase ticking down. The seconds passed, but I was too distracted to confirm the order. The intern diligently finished outlining the treatment plan. When he was done, Chloe replied without a hint of emotion. "Fine. Continue with the current regimen. We'll run more tests tomorrow." Then she moved on to the next patient's bed. The rounds lasted 20 minutes. She didn't spare me another glance before she left. I slowly turned my stiff neck, realizing my back was damp with sweat. And because of the whole interruption, the wig I'd been about to buy was now sold out. Great, just my luck. The only silver lining was that Chloe had clearly forgotten all about me. She didn't even flinch when the intern said my name. When Chloe and I first met, we didn't get along. I was the rich kid who acted out, and my grades were scraping the bottom. To get me to focus, our homeroom teacher made Chloe my desk mate. At first, Chloe wanted nothing to do with me. She just sat there grinding through practice tests day after day. She was brilliant, kind, and beautiful. Her only flaw was that her family had no money. I was the opposite. I wasn't smart. I wasn't nice. And sitting next to her, I felt like some brain-dead rich idiot. But I had my moments. While every other guy in school was sending her flowers and love letters, I was buying her SAT prep books. I bought her the entire Princeton Review collection, and in less than a semester, I'd won her over. The day I finally worked up the nerve to kiss her was her birthday. She blushed. What was that for? It was my first time kissing a girl, and my brain short-circuited. I stammered, "Isn't it obvious? Be my girlfriend." The tips of her ears turned red as she whispered, "Okay." Things were so good back then. I'd never cared about school, but now I'd walk into class and sit right down next to her, ready for my tutoring session. In a single year, my GPA skyrocketed. I did the math and realized I could get into a good school in New York, which meant no long-distance relationship with Chloe. If only my annual physical hadn't turned up a problem. The sound of me retching filled the hospital room. I was hugging the toilet bowl, my vision tunneling, drenched in a cold sweat. My best friend, Leo, patted my back. "Dude, this is bad. Your reaction is way too strong. I'm getting a doctor." I grabbed his arm. "Don't. I'm used to it. I got through 27 rounds of this alone at the clinic. I made it 10 years before this relapse, and who knows how much longer I have to go. If I call a doctor every time, they'll get sick of me." Leo wouldn't let it go. "Isn't Chloe Davis your doctor? I'll go get her. She'll know what to do." I practically tackled him. "Leo, for the love of God, stop. You should be thankful she doesn't recognize me. If she did, she'd probably schedule me for 100 more rounds of chemo out of spite." "Who said anything about 100 rounds of chemo?" A calm, cool voice came from behind me. I went rigid, not daring to turn around. Leo let out a sigh of relief. "Dr. Davis, Ethan's not feeling well. It's a normal reaction to the treatment. If he can't handle it." I didn't catch the rest of what Chloe said to Leo. My mind was racing with a single thought. Please tell me she didn't hear that. That evening, a nurse came in to give me an anti-nausea shot. She asked a little too casually, "Do you know Dr. Davis?" I collapsed back onto the pillows, feeling utterly defeated. "No. Why?" "Dr. Davis never gets involved in this stuff. But she went out of her way to go to the office, talk to your primary physician, and get this shot ordered for you." I glanced at my reflection. I was so much thinner now, my face pale and drawn from the constant pain. I looked nothing like the kid I was 10 years ago. No way. Chloe's memory was good, but not that good. Then again, yes, it was. What if she'd hated me all this time? My name, Ethan Miller, was printed in bold letters right above my bed. How could I have been so stupid as to think she wouldn't recognize me? Leo chimed in. "Your Dr. Davis is only 28. Right. That's incredibly young to be a full professor. Wow, you did your research." The nurse said she was in a combined BS/MD/PhD program. I think she was only 26 or 27 when she finished her doctorate. Her career track is basically unheard of. She's in a league of her own. Seeing Leo's interest, the nurse laughed, thinking of asking her out. "I save your energy. She's already seeing someone." Leo shot me a look just as the nurse continued. "The chief of medicine's son, he got his PhD at Oxford. Rumor is they could be getting married any day now." Leo's smile froze on his face. I picked at a loose thread on my baggy hospital gown, suddenly finding it the most interesting thing in the world. After the nurse left, Leo finally spoke. "Ethan, man, I'm sorry." "Hey, what for?" I said, "I'm 28, not 18. I gave up on the dream of the untouchable girl falling for me a long, long time ago. I didn't see Chloe again after that day, but I'd hear snippets about her from the staff. She was either away at a medical conference or holed up in the research lab. She'd only come by for rounds once a week to review my medication plan. During the breaks between chemo cycles, patients were allowed to go home. I was discharged without seeing Chloe again. On the way to my apartment, I got a call from Mark, my old high school class president. "Ethan, you're still in New York, right? How's the treatment going?" It was noisy on his end. Sounded like a party. I heard another voice chime in. "Why didn't you tell any of us you were sick?" We had no idea until Mark mentioned it. I was pretty popular in high school and I'd kept in touch with Mark over the years. I gave a weak laugh. Didn't want to bother anyone. "Don't say that. Listen, where are you staying? A few of us want to come visit you tomorrow." I couldn't talk them out of it, so I gave them my address. Family had spent a fortune on my medical bills over the years. Thanks to Leo's help, I'd found a reasonably cheap apartment to rent in the city. It had a small backyard. If I ever felt well enough, I could plant a garden, maybe even get a dog. Most of our high school friends had stayed back home, and the rest were scattered across the country. So only 5 or 6 people showed up. They all came in carrying bags of groceries. We were going to do hot pot. But it's so hot out. Maybe we should just make a few dishes. I, wearing a thick beanie despite the weather, just smiled. It's fine. We've got air conditioning. I'm craving hot pot. Everyone piled into the kitchen, chattering away, and the apartment was suddenly full of life. Felt like we were back in high school again. As Mark was washing some vegetables, he asked, "Have you reached out to Chloe Davis?" I froze for a second. What? You don't know? She's one of the top hematologists in the country. She specializes in lymphoma. You should really ask her for help. I really did not want to get Chloe involved in this. Just then, the doorbell rang. Mark wiped his hands on his apron and went to get it. A moment later, I heard a chorus of excited shouts from the doorway. "Chloe, you made it. Hey, look at the famous doctor. Long time no see. Come on in. Ethan wants hot pot. You're the expert. Tell us if that's a good idea." I just stood there stunned. My face, without a mask to hide behind, felt completely exposed, like it was burning under a spotlight. I couldn't believe they had actually called her and that she'd come. Here I was, face unwashed, no mask. Seeing her for the first time in a decade, Chloe looked at me calmly and said, "The non-spicy broth should be fine." "All right, you heard the doctor. No spicy broth." Everyone bustled back to the kitchen. Chloe took the house slippers Mark offered her and handed a bag of fruit she brought to someone. Mark tried to clear the air. "Hey, whatever happened is in the past, right? Water under the bridge. Chloe, you're the bigger person here. Don't hold a grudge against Ethan. Now, come help us prep these veggies." Someone shoved a colander full of greens into Chloe's arms. She was guided to the armchair across from the sofa where I was sitting, and suddenly we were alone in the living room. The only sound was the rattling of the old air conditioner in the corner. I avoided her eyes and fumbled for the mask in my back pocket. As I was about to put it on, Chloe snapped the end off a stalk of spinach. "I already know it's you," she said coolly. "Is there any point in hiding?" The tension in the room was awkward. No. Let's be honest. I was the only one who was awkward. I hesitated, then slowly lowered my hand, feeling defeated. "Thought you didn't recognize me. That's why I didn't say anything at the hospital." "You didn't need to." "What? We don't know each other." There was no reason to say hello. Chloe kept her head down, expertly trimming the greens, making it clear she had no interest in conversation. I nodded silently and awkwardly pushed a glass of water toward her. "Here, have some water." "I'm not thirsty, thanks." Her tone was glacial. After that rejection, I wasn't about to make a fool of myself trying to be friendly again. I just sat there racking my brain to remember if I'd done anything else to embarrass myself at the hospital. Mark poked his head out of the kitchen. "Ethan, we're out of paper towels. Can you grab another roll?" "Yeah, sure." I quickly got up and started rummaging through a low cabinet. The landlord's furniture was ancient. Just pulling open a drawer made the whole thing shake like an earthquake. A picture frame leaning against the wall on the top shelf groaned and started to tip over. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. All I could do was duck and cover my head, waiting for the impact. A second later, a shadow fell over me. Chloe had caught the frame. She was backlit, so I couldn't see her expression, but I could feel a cold anger radiating from her. "Thanks," I mumbled. She didn't respond. As I crawled out from under the frame, I saw what had captured her attention. A candid photo I'd taken of her sleeping in class years ago. Summer sunlight streamed through the leaves outside the window, dappling her face. She was so Deeply asleep, she didn't even stir when I'd reached out to gently touch her hand. For a split second, I seriously considered grabbing the photo and eating it. Ethan. Yeah, explain this, I thought. For a moment, then instinctively scratched my head, my fingers coming away with a few loose strands of hair. Under Chloe's icy stare, I forced a laugh. It's my wall of X's, you know. Just for old time's sake. Oh, really? Chloe pointed to a few photos of me and Leo clowning around. Her cold voice was dusk, and the setting sun cast a calm golden light over the pond. The wind sent ripples across the surface like 1,000 goldfish swimming through the light. I sat there in the breeze, periodically leaning over to be sick into a plastic bag. When I looked up again, a man was standing in front of me. Mr. Miller, fancy seeing you here. It was the doctor who had been with Chloe the other day. I'd forgotten to ask his name. He quickly solved that mystery for me, holding out a hand. Dr. Ryan Vance. I shook it, and my eyes were drawn to the simple silver band on his ring finger. I remembered the chief of medicine's last name was Vance. This had to be his son, the one who was supposedly marrying Chloe. Dr. Vance stood beside me, his voice smooth. So, how do you and Chloe know each other? It took me a second to process that he was talking about Chloe. The air suddenly felt charged. The ex-boyfriend and the fiancé classic. I adjusted my beanie. We were classmates in high school. Just classmates. I hesitated. Yeah, just classmates. Dr. Vance let out a soft laugh. That's not what I heard. I heard you were her high school boyfriend. The one who threw a wad of cash in her face on graduation day and dumped her. He wasn't pulling any punches. He was clearly here to defend his fiancée's honor. When I didn't say anything, he pressed on. Why you do it? Was it because you got sick? You thought that was a good way to push her away. I still said nothing. The wind whipped around my shoulders. I heard him scoff. Oh, pathetic. I should thank you really. If it weren't for you, Chloe and I would never have gotten engaged. I've been sick for so long. The illness has worn down most of my fight. But hearing that, I couldn't stop myself from snapping back. In that case, you should get on your knees and thank me. And while you're down there, you can wire me $5 million. I shot him a dirty look. What do you want to hear? That I regret it all. Instead of getting angry, he just smiled. Don't you? Oh yeah. I said, I regret it. He looked surprised. For a second, just before I continued with a brazen grin. In fact, I'm going to win her back right now. I'll go declare my undying love, beg and plead for her to take me back and tell her to dump you and marry me on the spot. Puffed out my chest, waiting to see the look of disgust on his face. Instead, he just got a weird expression and looked over my shoulder. Chloe, he said with a smile. Your ex says he's going to confess his love for you. Would you take him back? My smile froze on my face. The ground fell out from under me. I turned and met Chloe's cold, impassive eyes, and my face burned as if it were on fire. The setting sun turned her white coat a brilliant orange. You can try, she said, her expression unreadable. Could barely think straight. Try what? Saying, you still love me. Just then, the golden light of the sunset reflected off the rippling water and shot straight into my eyes, blinding me. The light swallowed her silhouette. My head was spinning, and her voice seemed to come from far away, echoing across a decade. You can try, she said. Tell me you still love me and see if I come back to you. A buzzing filled my ears. When my vision cleared, I saw Dr. Vance walking away and Chloe walking toward me. I sat frozen in my wheelchair, my legs feeling like lead as she came and took hold of the handles. It's hard to describe how I felt in that moment. Embarrassment, shame, humiliation, regret, all of it piled up into a giant lump in my throat. Chloe pushed my chair along the path by the pond. The wind carried her quiet Question. Aren't you going to say it? I kept my head down, picking at my fingernails. Say what? Was everything? You just said a lie. I hung my head, looking at how the wind flattened the thin hospital gown against my body. Thought about my thinning hair under the beanie. Before, I'd been speaking out of spite. Now I was just ashamed. What right did I have to ask her to come back to me? Looking like this. Ethan, Chloe stopped walking abruptly. Is it fun? Messing with me? Is love that cheap to you? She was angry. I could feel it radiating off her. I wasn't messing with you, I mumbled, my head still down. I was just trying to win an argument. It won't happen again. I'm sorry I made things weird. I used to be able to read her moods perfectly, to know exactly when to offer a charming, goofy apology before she got truly mad. But I couldn't manage a smile this time. In fact, I could feel tears starting to well up in my eyes. It's true that Ryan and I are supposed to be engaged, Chloe said, but that's just his father's idea. Walked around to the front of my chair and crouched down to look me in the eye. Her pale eyes were intense, overwhelming. I asked him to come here today, and I told him to say all those awful things to you. Her staring at me so closely ignited a spark of anger and self-pity. I was already so damn unlucky, a dying man, and now this. Well, congratulations, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. If I hadn't dumped you, you never would have gotten the chance to be the chief of medicine's perfect daughter-in-law. Yes, she snapped, her voice sharp, and that's why I said you're a complete idiot, Chloe. I don't want to fight. I feel sick. Think I'm going to be sick. A tear rolled down my cheek. I'm sorry for what I did back then. I never should have hurt you or humiliated you like that. It was all my fault. Can you please just let me go? Chloe's fingers dug into my shoulders. She bowed her head, took a deep, shaky breath, and then looked up at me again. You think that's what I care about? What? Her eyes were red-rimmed. She took my hand and pressed it against the collar of her white coat. The fabric was stiff and coarse. I've dedicated my entire life to this, Ethan. Do you really think I care about some high school humiliation? Did you really think I didn't know why you broke up with me? Chloe, who loved math more than anything, became a doctor. She gave up her dream, and now she was standing here in front of me, her eyes brimming with years of unspoken pain. I have worked and suffered for 10 years to get here, to get to you, she demanded. And you think you can just tell me to let you go and I'll just walk away? I was speechless. That clinical trial recruitment notice? I asked Mark to send it to you. Her eyes were blazing. I knew you would come. My head was spinning. I had only told Mark about my diagnosis, and I'd sworn him to secrecy. Had he told her, the wind was picking up, and in the distance I could hear a nurse calling my name. Chloe stood up, pulling her emotions back in check. She looked down at me, her voice resigned but firm. Ethan, you're sick, so I'm not going to fight with you, but don't you ever think you're getting rid of me. After I got back to my room, I just sat on the edge of the bed, staring into space. Leo waved a hand in front of my face. Hello, Earth to Ethan. What's wrong with you, Chloe? I said. She became a doctor. Yeah, I know that. I'm not an idiot. He saw my red-rimmed eyes, and then a look of realization dawned on his face. His jaw dropped. You mean she became a doctor because of that? Night after Leo went home, I called Mark. Hey, Ethan, what's up? It's about Chloe. Mark went quiet on the other end. All I could hear was the sound of a baby babbling in the background. Ethan, I'm so sorry, he finally said. I told Chloe what was going on with you. I knew it. I slumped forward, burying my face in my knees with a heavy sigh. Mark's words came out in a rush. I know I shouldn't have, but you just vanished after throwing that money at her. Chloe, Waited outside my house for a solid week trying to get me to talk. The admissions officers from a few colleges even started showing up thinking I was some kind of genius recruit. My parents almost threw a party. But the main thing was in that 1 week she lost 10 pounds. If you'd seen her, you wouldn't have been able to keep it from her either. When I found out later that she changed her entire college application to pre-med, I felt awful. I was afraid you'd hate me for it, so I never told you. Ethan, are you still there? I wiped a tear from my eye. Yeah, I'm here. I don't blame you, Mark. I'm sorry for putting you in that position. It's okay, man. Just talk to her. You two need to talk, okay? After I hung up, the room was completely silent. I gripped my phone, a dull ache spreading through my chest. The only sound in the darkness was my own ragged breathing. I felt like a complete idiot. I thought I had everything figured out, that I was protecting everyone by keeping my secret. But the one person who mattered most had known all along. Sliver of light cut through the darkness as my door creaked open. Chloe was standing in the doorway. Our eyes met. My face still wet with tears. Her expression tensed, and she rushed to my side. What is it? Are you in pain? Couldn't hold it in anymore. Why did you change your major, you idiot? I never needed you to do that. Don't you get it? Chloe looked startled for a moment, then her expression softened. You talked to Mark. Yeah, good, she said. That's good. What's good about it? She crouched down and looked up at me, her eyes shining with a terrifying intensity. Can we get back together? Can we just not be broken up anymore? I instinctively pulled back, but she grabbed my shoulders, holding me in place. Ethan, her voice was sharp, forcing me to meet her gaze. I know what you're afraid of. She raised her hand as if taking an oath. I swear to you, I will not give up on my own life for you. Even if one day, her lips trembled and her voice shook. She choked on the words, clearly hating them, but forced them out. Even if one day we're separated forever, I, Chloe Davis, swear that I will never ever give up my own life for Ethan Miller. She cooped my face in her hands. Now, she whispered, are you willing to tell me that you love me? A cool breeze drifted through the open window, drying the tears on my cheeks. The moonlight was cool and serene. I was like a weary bird that had been flying alone for 10 years, forced to keep flapping its wings just to stay airborne, to stay optimistic, positive, and brave in the face of this disease. But I was also scared. I felt despair. I cursed fate for its unfairness and hated my own rotten luck. I felt like I had no forest to land in, that if I stopped for even a second, I'd plummet into an abyss. I was so tired that all I wanted was to lean on Chloe. Even just for a day, I needed a place to rest my wings. Then, when the sun rose, I could spread them again and continue my flight toward the inevitable. I wrapped my arms around Chloe, buried my face in her shoulder, and finally let myself cry. After my second round of chemo, my weight hit an all-time low, and when it rains, it pours. My landlord called out of the blue to say his son was getting married and needed the apartment. He offered to pay me double the security deposit, but I had to be out in 2 days. Chloe was sitting beside me while I argued with him on the phone. She frowned. Do you want me to talk to him? I hung up. No, it's fine. The payout is generous. It's more than enough to find a new place. I was used to it. I've been moving from place to place for treatment. 4 years. Move in with me, Chloe said. What? She looked away, avoiding my eyes. My apartment is close to the hospital. It would be more convenient. For once, I was at a loss for words. Would that be too much trouble for you? It's not a problem. And just like that, I was moving into Chloe's apartment in a nice building right near the hospital. The place wasn't huge, but it had a great layout that made it feel spacious. It was a palace compared to my tiny rental. Chloe had to get to work, so she just gave me the key code. Just have the movers leave your things in the living room. I'll help you unpack tonight. I stood in the middle of her apartment, scratching my head. I couldn't believe I was actually moving in with Chloe. It was my first time in her personal space, and I felt like I was walking on eggshells. I sat down primly on the sofa and asked, "Which room is mine?" "Whichever you want, huh?" She was already busy with a work call and didn't elaborate. I cautiously opened the door to the room on the right. It had a navy blue duvet, gray blackout curtains, and a charging stand for a smartwatch on the nightstand. The closet was full of Chloe's clothes. Ah, the master bedroom. I quietly closed the door and went to the other room, leaving my suitcase there. As evening fell, I made dinner and set the table. I sat down to wait for her, and before I knew it, I'd fallen asleep. When Chloe came through the door, I was slumped over the table, fast asleep. My wig was askew, barely hanging on. I startled awake as she approached. "You're home?" "Yeah, maybe I was imagining it, but the way she looked at me felt more intense than it had at the hospital. I panicked, quickly straightening my wig as I stood up. "I already ate. I'm just going to head to bed." Chloe looked away. "Okay," she said, quietly. "My hours are crazy. You don't have to wait up for me." "Okay." I skewered back to the guest room and checked my reflection in the mirror, kicking myself. This was my favorite wig. Had it fallen off completely? Had she seen my head? I gritted my teeth, pulled the wig off, and sighed at my reflection. I'd always been vain. In high school, I dressed like a peacock. In the years before my relapse, I always had the most stylish haircut. But now, looking at the sparse, patchy hair on my head, I couldn't bring myself to smile. I looked hideous. And this was only after the second round of chemo. A few more and I'd have to shave it all off. Knock, knock. It was Chloe. "I put some toiletries for you in the bathroom. Are you coming out to wash up?" I quickly switched off the light. "No, I'm going to sleep now." I heard nothing else from outside. She must have stood there for a moment before walking away. I waited until the middle of the night, long after the last lights in the building had gone out, before quietly getting out of bed and tiptoeing toward the bathroom. But a faint light was spilling out from the living room. Chloe was on the sofa, surrounded by stacks of papers, her face illuminated by a small reading lamp, and she had a perfect view of me standing there guilty without my wig. I froze, unsure if I should retreat back into the darkness of my room, or just walk out and pretend everything was normal. Chloe put down her papers and got up. "I just woke up, was going to the bathroom." "Don't move," she said. She took the hand I was using to cover my head and pressed me back against the wall. Her warm breath was on my face, and then she kissed me. A shiver went through me. My heart hammered against my ribs, and I could barely breathe. Her body blocked the only light in the hallway, and in the darkness, my other senses were heightened. I could hear the sound of her hair brushing against my pajamas, the sound of her quickening breath, the frantic beating of her heart against mine. We kissed for a long time, until I was breathless. "Were you hiding from me?" she whispered. I instinctively put a hand to my head. "Who would hide from you? Don't be so full of yourself." Chloe gently touched my hair, my reflection captured in her eyes. "There. That's much better. What is seeing you without the wig?" She nuzzled her nose against mine. "I've been wanting to do that for a while," she whispered. "But you seemed so stressed about the wig. I didn't want to mess it up." I turned my head away. "Don't look at me. I'm hideous." "You're not hideous. You're handsome. You're lying." Chloe took my hand and led me into the bathroom. "There was something I wanted to talk to you about." She flipped on the light. On the counter, in plain sight, was a pair of electric clippers. She looked at my reflection in the mirror. "Do you know how to shave someone's head?" "I'm not ready to shave it yet. At least I still have something left." Chloe held the clippers out to me. I meant I want you to shave my head. Are you insane? I looked at her thick, beautiful dark hair. My brow furrowed. I couldn't stop picturing her bald. How could a woman shave off all her hair? She pulled a small stool into the bathroom. I looked too young. Patients don't take me seriously. I want you to help me look more authoritative. The clippers were plugged in, buzzing in my hand. My eyes started to sting. I won't do it, I said, my voice thick. She was doing this for me to be like me. Chloe just smiled and took the clippers from my hand. Her own hand was perfectly steady. With a loud buzz, her dark hair began to fall to the floor in clumps. She was completely ruthless, not leaving a single strand behind. I looked at her reflection. It backfired, I said, my voice cracking. You look even younger now, like a first-year intern. She tossed the clippers aside, stood up, and seeing my red eyes, she leaned in and gave me a soft kiss. If being bald means I get to be with you like this every day, then I think it's a great deal. Couldn't help it. I laughed through my tears. The mirror reflected the two of us, one with a tear-streaked, ridiculous grin, the other with a radiant smile, her eyes full of love. The next time I ordered a wig for myself, I got one for her, too. A few of her students had seen her without it, and their jaws had practically hit the floor. I felt it was undermining her authority. Chloe accepted it graciously. From then on, we only ever took our wigs off at home. A few more months passed. My treatment cycle ended, and my condition had stabilized. To celebrate, Mark organized another small get-together. "Ethan, how are you feeling?" he asked on the phone. I figured I wouldn't invite Chloe this time. This is about celebrating you, and I don't want things to be awkward. I was on a ladder changing a light bulb, so Chloe was holding the phone for me on speaker. Glanced down at the caller ID and said, not missing a beat, "Ethan and I will be there." Mark choked on the other end of the line, coughed for a bit, and then sputtered. "Chloe, what are you doing there?" "We're back together," she said. Simply. We heard the sound of a glass tipping over. "I'm free on Saturday," Chloe continued. "Just send Ethan the details when you have them." "Wait, I said you're working the night shift on Friday. We should probably skip it. Mark said it's a lunch thing and you won't get home until 10 o'clock in the morning. You won't have any time to sleep." "We're going," she said softly, her back to me as she straightened the chairs. We both missed the reunion 10 years ago. I don't want to miss this one. I watched her for a moment, then turned away and rubbed my eyes. "Okay," I said with a smile. "I'll go pick out a nice wig for the occasion." "Good. Pick one out for me, too." The vibe at this party was completely different from the last one. It was loud and cheerful, a proper reunion of old friends. The second Chloe and I walked in, we were mobbed and pulled to a big table in the back. "When did you two get back together? Who asked who out? What was with you two last time? Were you in a fight?" I blushed, not knowing what to say. Chloe, however, was perfectly composed. "A few months ago," she answered smoothly. "I made the first move, and last time was my fault. I was being difficult." Everyone grinned knowingly, and the old stories started pouring out. I was the first one to know Ethan had a crush on Chloe. He told me himself. "No way, I knew before you." I caught him slipping a note into her desk. "Oh yeah, I saw him kissing her." Picture. "No way. When was this?" "Sophomore year." Her photo was on the honor roll bulletin board for getting the top grades. Ethan wasn't tall enough to reach it, so he had to jump. My face was burning under Chloe's intensely curious gaze. I wanted the earth to swallow me whole. She leaned in and whispered in my ear, "You kissed my picture." Her warm breath tickled my ear and I flinched away. "So what if I did?" Chloe just smiled and said nothing. The conversation soon turned to her. "Hey Chloe, did your family move? I went by your old house last Christmas and it looked empty." Chloe's voice was flat. "I'm not sure what. I haven't been home." in years. She didn't explain and no one pressed her, but I could tell something was wrong. Before I could think more about it, a very drunk Mark roped us into a game of truth or dare. The energy in the room immediately shot up. After all, with this many old friends, there were bound to be some messy relationship histories. I was planning on just being a spectator, but somehow the bottle seemed determined to land on either me or Chloe. The first spin pointed right at her. Mark handed her the deck of cards, and she drew one. Everyone leaned in, their faces alike with gossip. Many relationships have you been in? And which one was the most serious? I looked at Chloe, curious myself. She met my gaze directly. Once, she said, with Ethan. My heart hammered in my chest as if in answer to her words. The next spin landed on me. What was the time you cried the hardest and why? Someone cleared their throat. Hey, Mark, maybe we should skip this one. Ethan's just gotten through a lot. Everyone murmured. In agreement, all assuming the answer was obviously the day I was diagnosed. I squeezed Chloe's hand under the table. It was during my first round of chemo, I said. I found the note Chloe wrote in my yearbook because the person I loved wasn't with me when I needed her most. Chloe squeezed my hand back, her grip tightening. The game moved on and the bottle landed on other people. After that, I heard some pretty juicy gossip. It landed on Chloe a few more times, but the questions were tame and she chose to drink instead of answering. Before we knew it, it was late. Time for the last round. The bottle pointed to Chloe. What's something you've wanted to do for a long time? Mark was already handing her a shot glass, but she didn't take it. Marry Ethan, she said. The sleepy, drunken vibe of the room instantly vanished, replaced by an explosion of cheers and whistles. I stared at her completely in shock. Before tonight, I had never even allowed myself to dream of marrying Chloe. Mark was wasted, and no one could stop him from climbing onto a chair. Let's hear it for the happy couple finally finishing their 10-year marathon. Mark. It's a little early for that. Save it for the wedding, someone shouted. Yeah, they don't need to hire an MC. You can do it. Everyone roared with laughter. As people started leaving in cabs, the party wound down. Mark rubbed his eyes and clapped us both on the shoulder. You two be good to each other. I'll be waiting for my wedding invitation. As I watched him walk away, I could almost picture him at our wedding, acting as the MC and getting the crowd hyped up. Squeezed Chloe's hand. You're your parents, I started. Are they going to be okay with this? Don't worry about them, she said. She'd had a few drinks and was a little flushed. When we got home, she wrapped her arms around my neck without a word and started kissing me deeply. Her nose brushed against mine and my heart began to race. Chloe, wait. No, she murmured. Her voice was husky as she kissed me again, silencing all my doubts. I could feel her heart pounding under my hand, so strong and full of life. I stopped resisting and let myself get lost in the moment with her. In the darkness, I reached for her hand and she brought it to her lips for a soft kiss. Ethan, she whispered, hold me. Okay. She was gentle with me, mindful of my health. Afterwards, I dozed off for a bit and was woken by the sound of Chloe on the phone. Her voice, sharp and cold, drifted through the crack in the door, filled with a hostility I'd never heard from her before. I got out of bed and quietly opened my door a little wider. I could hear her clearly from the living room. Mom, I've made myself perfectly clear. This is my life. You don't get to interfere. I gripped the doorknob, my palms slick with sweat. Knew I shouldn't be listening, but my feet carried me to the edge of the hallway anyway. Now I could hear her mother's voice on the other end. Not interfere. You want me to just stand by and watch you marry a man who could die at any second? You've worked so hard to get where you are. Why would you throw it all away? Chloe let out a cold laugh. And who do you think I did all this for? Without Ethan, there would be no Dr. Chloe Davis. And the Davis family certainly wouldn't have their own personal doctor on call to take them to every single checkup. That's your duty. As a daughter. My duty. Chloe's voice was sharp as glass. What about when you tried to secretly change my college applications behind my back? All for a payout from a local university. Did you think about your duty then? Her parents were silent. If you have any respect for me at all, Chloe warned, you will show Ethan some respect. If you dare to give him any trouble, I swear I will cut you out of my life for good. I heard the phone slam down on the coffee table. That exact moment, I let out a sneeze. Busted. Chloe came around the corner and stared right at me. The anger on her face slowly melted into resignation. She sighed. Why were you eavesdropping? Scratched my head. I was just getting some water. Go back to bed. I'll bring it to you. Oh, okay. Maybe it was the fight with her parents, but she seemed cold and distant. I followed her into the kitchen. Was what you said just now true? Which part? About them changing your college applications. She waited until I'd finished the entire glass of water before taking it from me. Yes, she said. If I hadn't logged on that afternoon to change it back, I wouldn't have known until the acceptance letters arrived. So, you don't need to feel guilty about me changing my path. Without you, I wouldn't be who I am today. In the dark, I wrapped my arms around her again. Was med school hard? No, you're lying. I'm not. She wrapped her arms around my waist. Sometimes I think, she murmured, that when people meet and when they meet again, it's all just fate. Do you think so? Her eyes were bright and her voice was sure. Yes, no matter how many years passed, Chloe and Ethan were always going to end up together. It was just a matter of time. After that night, I started to seriously think about marrying Chloe. She assured me with the confidence of a top physician that my prognosis was excellent. The survival rates were high, and it shouldn't significantly impact my lifespan. If I stayed in remission, I could very well live to be a grumpy old man. We set a tentative wedding date for 6 months later. I wanted to use the time to grow my hair back. At the very least, I didn't want us both to be bald at our wedding. 6 months flew by and I was feeling healthier and more energetic than I had in years. I put on some weight and my hair was coming in thick. I actually had some color in my cheeks. Again, I finally worked up the nerve to call my parents. It had been 9 months since we'd last spoken. My mom answered. Ethan, hello. How are you doing? What are the doctors saying? Things are stable. I said. There shouldn't be any major issues. Oh, that's good. We hadn't heard from you in so long. Your father and I were thinking of coming to visit. It's just that your brother is so busy with his middle school applications. My parents had my little brother not long after I was first diagnosed. Their world revolved around him now. I didn't blame them. Healthy, well-adjusted kid is a much better investment than a son who could die at any moment. And they'd already spent a fortune on my medical bills before he was born. I managed to get it out before she could hang up. Mom, I'm getting married. Married? She blurted out, her surprise painfully obvious. Someone wants to marry you? Yeah, you remember her. Chloe Davis. She's a hematologist here in New York now. Oh, that's nice. Your father and I, we have no objections. We're glad someone will be there to take care of you. Have you set a date? Where will it be? Oh, hold on. Your brother just spilled the dog's treats all over the floor. I have to go. We'll talk later. The line went dead. The words, "I'd like you to meet her," died in my throat. Chloe squeezed my hand. What did they say? I looked up, dazed. Took me a moment to find my voice. "They got a dog," I said numbly. "No one told me. In the beginning, my parents were by my side every day. After my brother was born, they took turns, taking me to appointments. Then eventually, I started going alone. The calls went from weekly to monthly to every 6 months. And now they had a dog and I was the last to know. I couldn't put a name to the feeling in my chest." Chloe understood. She squeezed my hand, her grip firm and sure. "This wedding is about us," she said. "We'll plan it our way." Okay. We ended up getting married in New York. It wasn't a big ceremony. We just went to City Hall and then had dinner with our friends that night. Mark got drunk, of course, and started crying, insisting on acting as our impromptu master of ceremonies. No one could stop him. The atmosphere was amazing. With Mark leading the charge, Chloe and I ended up having a small, chaotic wedding reception right there in the restaurant. We were surrounded by the heartfelt congratulations of our friends, and everyone had a wonderful time. The next day, Chloe and I left for our honeymoon. We made a promise to take tons of photos everywhere we went to fill up a whole wall in our apartment. Over the next few years, we traveled all over the country. Mountains, lakes, deserts, and snowy peaks all became backdrops for our pictures. The young couple slowly grew older and eventually wrinkles appeared at the corners of our eyes. Today marks 20 years since our wedding. I just walked out of the hospital clutching a medical report with a clean bill of health. I saw Chloe waiting for me in the car, and I made a silent wish to be healthy enough to spend the next 20 years with her and the 20 after that. The year Ethan passed away. He was a spry old man. He'd lived a full active life for decades. At 69, the cancer came back. He didn't make it through the 3rd round of chemo. By then, Chloe was a world-renowned figure in medicine. People came to offer their condolences, all saying the same thing. He lived to be 69. That's a wonderful, long life. To be diagnosed at 18 and lived to 69. He beat the odds. Even Ethan in his final days held her hand and tried to comfort her with a grin. "I made it to 69. You have to admit that's pretty damn impressive. When I'm gone, you can publish a paper on my ridiculously long-lived case. Go find some other old guys to dance with. You must be sick of me after all these years." Chloe just held his hand tightly, saying nothing. Medical technology had advanced by leaps and bounds, but the available treatments were still too harsh for a 69-year-old body. Palliative care had been their mutual decision. So, when the day finally came, Chloe was calm. She handled the funeral arrangements with quiet efficiency and returned to their empty home. They had been together for over 40 years and had never had children. The house felt cavernous now. Chloe didn't touch any of Ethan's things. His clothes still hung in the closet. His toothbrush was still by the sink. She even kept watering the sad-looking spider plant he'd kept on the balcony. The photo wall, starting with their honeymoon at 28 and ending with a picture of them at a botanical garden at 68, remained untouched. Thousands of photos, a lifetime of memories. Sometimes Chloe would just sit on the sofa and stare at that wall for hours. Then when it was time, she would go out, buy groceries, and cook a meal for one. In the beginning, her students and colleagues visited often, worried about her. She and her husband had been inseparable for a lifetime. They were afraid she wouldn't be able to go on. But for months, Chloe's routine never changed. Her house was immaculate, and she began writing a book, a culmination of her life's work. Gradually, everyone's worries subsided. 5 years passed. Chloe was 74 now, and a simple cold could leave her with a cough for weeks. Today was her wedding anniversary. Her students knew she would be visiting the cemetery, so they left her in peace. She woke early, dressed in her best clothes, and carefully colored her gray hair. On the way, she stopped to buy a bouquet of roses, their petals still dotted with morning dew. As always, she stopped to talk to the cemetery's groundskeeper, an old man himself. He smiled when he saw her. Davis, back again. Any letters for you this year? The groundskeeper checked the mailbox he kept for her. No, not this year, he said, shaking his head. Chloe nodded and continued on. She reached Ethan's grave, placed the roses before it, and sat down, leaning against the cool stone. From her pocket, she pulled a stack of carefully preserved letters. Each one was in a plastic sleeve without a single crease. They were letters Ethan had written to her before he died, mailed to the cemetery on a schedule. He told the groundskeeper, "If she stops visiting, you don't have to give them to her." "Why is that?" the man had asked. "It means she's moved on, and if she keeps coming, then give them to her." Chloe opened the first letter. She knew it by heart, but she read every word. "Chloe, miss me yet?" "Stop right there. I know what you're thinking. Remember your promise. You have to live a good long life. One of your students was just complaining to me the other day about a research problem. You've got to keep working hard for the good of humanity and my spider plant. Take good care of it. Bring it inside for the winter. Keep it out of direct sun in the summer and don't overwater it. If you have time next year, bring it with you when you visit." The second letter was from the following year. Okay. You actually kept the plant alive. You have a natural green thumb. So, have you met any nice old men yet? You can tell me. A widower would be best. I'll keep an eye out for a good one for you from down here. A few of the letters were just random thoughts. I was just thinking about that trip to Yellowstone when we were 34. That bison stew we had was incredible. I wish we could have gone back. You should go again. For me, the peaches in Georgia will be ripe soon. You should fly down for a weekend. Arg. There were so many places we never got to see. We only did half of our road trip through New England. I remember how much you loved spicy food. Can you still handle it? Chloe smiled as she read. She could perfectly picture Ethan's voice saying those words. Soon, she reached the last letter in the stack. It had arrived last year. You're here again. Why do you keep coming every year? Is your life that boring? Who hangs out with a dead guy for fun? Dr. Davis, I don't know what to do. I don't think I can write anymore. I was always so afraid you'd do something rash and try to join me. So, I kept writing these letters. I think there are more than 20 of them now. I bet you'll never even read this one. By now, you've probably started a new life. If so, congratulations. But if you are reading this, well, I admit I'm touched, but this is where it has to end. Chloe, this is my last letter. I'm so sorry I had to leave you alone. Sometimes I think it was selfish of me trying to boss you around from beyond the grave, forcing you to keep living. Everyone has their own path. I won't interfere with your choices anymore. I won't wish you a long and healthy life. Instead, I'll wish for all your dreams to come true and for you to be happy always. Chloe finished the letter and carefully placed it back in its plastic sleeve with the others. That autumn, no letter arrived. Perhaps she no longer needed one. That night, the old groundskeeper had a little too much to drink and slept soundly. He woke to a world covered in white. It had snowed heavily overnight. He grabbed his broom and began his morning rounds, shuffling past the neat rows of headstones. When he turned a corner, the path opened up. He let out a small burp and saw a figure in the distance, leaning against a familiar tombstone covered in a blanket of fresh snow. She was curled up, clutching something to her chest. He saw the frost that had formed on her eyebrows and gently shook her shoulder. "Hey," he said. "Wake up." Chloe fell sideways into the snow. She was 74. After 5 years apart, there in the swirling snow, she thought she saw Ethan's silhouette. He was a warm, glowing light, smiling and beckoning to her from a distance. She walked toward him and their fingers intertwined. Some meetings and some reunions are simply destiny. Chloe and Ethan were always going to be together. It was just a matter of